So once the Power BI open, it will always bring you to the main welcome screen, which you should be able to see now, right? And whenever you are getting it, it always Power BI generates updates on a monthly basis. So you should be always be looking at what's new in this Power BI and keep it updated, because there are always new charts, new features which are being launched by Power BI, by Microsoft. So you should be able to understand that. There is a Power BI tutorial as well. If you want to learn more about specific functions or how to do certain things, because even in this class, we will not be able to cover each and every aspect of Power BI. We are going to cover the basic aspects, but we will not be able to cover the 100% of it. So you have a Power BI tutorials to your advantage, where you can search for specific answers, specific questions, and then on the left panel, when the black panel, you will be able to get immediately started by clicking on get data, or it will tell you the recent sources from which it has been working. So here you can see there are few files that I have been working in the past. These are Power BI files which I have created. So we are not going to work on these reports already. We are going to collect the data. But for now, we will not click on get data from here, but that's an option in case in case you need to know. So we will close it. Now we are in a untitled Power BI desktop file. uh, Whenever we are going to save this file, we it will be saved in the with an extension of PBIX, and you can choose the destination wherever you want to save it. It will save the project file together with the sources and the links, everything else. So let me give you a introduction of what is these panels and how do we get started. Right, the first thing we have to understand is about this panel. So about on the left side of this, where you can see my cursor, you have three icons here. One is the chart, the report panel. Then you have the, if you click on it, then this is table format. At the moment, we don't have any table, so it will not show anything. And we have a data model called hierarchy model, which will show if we have tables, what are the tables that we have and what is the relationship between all those tables. So we are going to learn about that at a later stage. So we go back to our report model. Then on the right side, you will see there are three panes. One is filter pane, visualization pane, and fields pane. So you have three panes here. The fields pane basically is going to tell about the data, the tables that we have, and what are the columns that we can use for visualization. And then you have visualization pane, which will be highlighting a lot of different type of visualizations, and you can select any of them and start creating it. Then there are so we will be learning about them later. And then there is a filter, how we can filter the visualizations for the page or for the entire report, or for the only for at the visualization at each chart level. So you can filter the data for each chart separately, or you can filter them for the entire charts on one page, or you can filter them for all the charts around all the pages. So you have a flexibility there. So the first step without which needs to work for this is to create the data, right? Add the data, because at the moment you will see is it needs the data to get started. So now the options for getting the data is on the page itself. You have import data from Excel, which is the which is quite useful most of the time. And then you have import data from SQL Server, import data from the blank table, or another try a sample data set. So you can have a sample data set from Power BI for your learning purposes, or get data from another source. Since we are going to test with one of the CSV file, so we will click on get data from another source. But that is not the only place where you can click in. So remember, when the Power BI started, there was a get data function. Here again, one option is given, and then on the top in the home ribbon, the first icon which is available here is get data again here. So you can see there's a get data option available. If you click it, it will open up the sources, common data sources, Excel workbook, Power BI data set, Power BI data flows, Dataverse. Dataverse is the service by Power BI where you can store all the data and use it like a OneDrive. And then SQL Server, if you have SQL Server access directly, you can use it. Analysis services is another service by SQL. Text CSV. We wanted to locate the data by text CSV. So in your folder, which I have given you, you will see one folder called WI. You will be able to see this folder called WDI. So I will be using this WDI for the first section of the class. So we will be going ahead with that. So once you click text CSV, it will open up a file explorer to select the data where you want to get the data from. So we will go ahead and select WDI from our desktop, and we will select the country GDP. So you can select any of these countries, any of these files, but we will select the country GDP.csv first. So we click it, open. And then Power BI will create a connection. The one thing that you need to note here is that Power BI is not going to import the data into this Power BI desktop, but it will just create a connection with the data source. So whatever changes we are going to do here in this file is not going to be replicated into the original data file. So original data file will remain the same. It will not change, but Power BI have just created a connection with that particular file, and whatever we are doing with this file, it will just note the steps and create the connection. So whenever we want to restart, it will just follow the same process again by connecting to the file and apply the steps which we are doing here. So if you change the original file, the Power BI connect the steps that we have undertaken will also change. So you should not be changing the files after you have connected with the Power BI. So now it will select. It has already automatically detected that it's a file origin is a CSV file, and the tab and the delimiter was tab. If it's not selected like this, then you can select. Then the data type is based on the first 200 rows only. It does not look at the entire file. It does not load the entire file here to save the performance, but it will analyze it based on the first 200 rows. Now we can see uh, there are certain rows which we don't want. Like we don't want our data actually starts from country name, but there are first three rows which are not useful. For here, we cannot do anything. It's just a preview. So what are the choices that we have? We have three choices here. Either we load the data or we transform the data. Ideally, we never load the data directly. We always transform the data first so that we can remove unnecessary columns, unnecessary rows from the it, and before we load the data into the Power BI, right? So you can load the Power BI into directly as well. So it will load directly into the Power BI desktop here, but you will not be able to use the data because it's not clean, it's dirty. So to clean the data, you need to click on transform data first. So let's click on transform data, and then another window will open up, which is a new one, and which is called this is called Power Query. Here you can say is Power Query Editor. So this will open up again automatically. You don't have to worry about it, and you can just click here on the last icon, the first icon where you can see Power BI, to go back to the Power BI and come back here by clicking the data, edit the data. So now we are in Power BI editor. Again, it's a new window, complex one. So you will be able to see a lot of things are happening here. The first thing first again is the what are these panels, right? So what they have one panel which is listing all the queries. So query one, country GDP. This is the file name that we selected. Then the main panel here is the table itself. So my Power Query has created the tables from the text file by using a delimiter tab. And so we will be working on it separately. Then the third panel here is the query settings. So here is the name of the query setting, country dash GDP. So we can change the name of this one. Instead of country dash GDP, we can just say it's at GDP level, GDP data. So whatever name you use here, it will be shown in the Power BI desktop when you are working with the report. So you have to select a name which is explanatory and indicate what is in this particular data. So because this is country GDP, I will keep it as country GDP. I will not change it. Then there are a very important application here called applied steps. So what is applied steps? So applied steps is the list of steps that Power BI Power Query has applied to the file when it started with the import. So you can see the first step is the source. So means the source. If you click on the source and click on this gear icon, the little gear icon, and then you will be able to see what is the source of this file. So you can say file path is D OneDrive desktop material for Power BI class WDI country dash GDP. You can change the source, but and so it will refresh all the data again, and it's saying that is how this file was open as a CSV document, and all the other necessary information. Because we are not doing anything with it, we can just close it. So the source is a very important one. If tomorrow this file is not here on this location, the Power BI desktop will not be able to reach to the file. So after it has opened, it's promoted certain headers by itself, by automatically. So these are the steps it has already done. If you don't want use this step, you can delete it. So there is a little icon. When you click on it, hover over this, there's a little X icon here, red X. So you can click on it to remove the step from the processing. So Power BI will remove it and undo the process that it has already done. But I'm not doing it because the Power BI query, but because the Power Query has already done it by themselves. Once you click it, once we do anything else with the data, it will automatically keep on adding the steps here. Because whenever there is a new data, or whenever we are opening up, the Power BI query is always going back to the file, fetching the data and applying these steps. If you remove this, then Power BI does not know what to do with it, right? So these steps are very important, and these are also for troubleshooting. If you done anything wrong, you can go back to these steps, undo it, and then you will get back your data. So again, we are not doing anything with the original file. Whatever we are doing is only in this window, and it will not reflect into the original file. So even if we delete any column here, it will not it will not delete the column from the original source. We'll just note that we took the original source and we delete a column. So that's the only information Power BI is storing. It does not store the data itself. Okay, so that is how we import the data. There are many other ways where we can get the data. Uh, the process will be slightly different, but the concept will remain the same. Now, there are many options here for us to transform the data. So the first thing was the new source. We can enter the data manually. We have some options for removing the columns, selecting the columns, and deleting some rows, and splitting the columns. So we are going to learn them one by one. What does they mean, right? The first thing that we have to do here is, uh, because we know, so first thing we have to understand is what are these ones. So you can see on the top